Welcome to The Business of Family, the podcast where we explore the stories, challenges, and opportunities of family businesses. I'm your host, Tammy Buss, and I'm a family business survivor and also a family business advisor. In this show, we will be talking with family business leaders and experts to bring you insights and inspiration so you too can survive your family business journey. Whether you're a founder, a successor, a professional, or just curious about family businesses, this podcast is for you. On today's episode, we have Melody Gratic, CEO of Xcelmil in Northern Virginia, joining us. Hello, how are you?
I am wonderful, Tammy. How are you?
Great. I'm so glad you could join us. So today we have a very interesting topic, Melody. I'm so excited to get into this. We're actually going to be talking about influencing and shaping a generation. Wow, that seems like a really daunting task.
It is a daunting task. It's not for the faint of heart because we are in a generation where, sometimes we are resistant to change in all of the technology and all of those fresh, new, insightful ideas and concepts that from other generations. So this is going to be an exciting topic.
Yes. I'm so looking forward. You know what? When we talk about generation, the one thing that I always remind myself whenever I'm thinking about generations is I have what's called the flashing 12 to remind myself. And people go, what's the flashing 12? Well, I said, remember when the VCR was so popular, just came out, and my parents couldn't figure out how to get the flashing 12 off. So whenever the power went out, the 12 would come back on, and I would have to go over there and fix it. And now I have to call one of our kids to come over and fix our Google Nest. So all I think about when I'm talking to younger people is flashing 12, flashing 12, flashing 12. So anyway, so tell me, what group is the largest group in today's workforce?
Well, that is such a great question. And I almost wanted to touch bases on what you just said. And I'm smiling because of the appreciation for everyone has that value they add. And if we can remember that in the workplace, what a game changer that would be for the dynamics, the team dynamics and the collaboration for like, okay, this is their skill set. This is what they're adept at. But we'll talk about that in a minute. The largest generation in the workforce happens to be our millennials. Currently, there are over 56 million millennials in the workforce.
Wow.
That gives us pause.
And just to give, I know we've talked about this in the past, but can you give the age grouping on millennials?
Millennials are going to be anywhere from 30 years old. Some of them are near 40 right now. So you have a different bracket of individuals that are in that age range where we want to pay attention to them because they are the largest in the workforce.
And they're really coming up quickly behind us. I mean, when you think about them being 40, because you used to, good or bad, right or wrong, we used to say, oh, those darn millennials, like don't call them until 9 o'clock because they're not out of bed. But you think, wow, they're 40 now. They're not kids anymore. These are adults. They're like ingrained in the workforce. They've got debt. They've got kids. They've got all kinds of things, right? You tend to think, and I do in my mind, and maybe we can talk about this a little more, is I think of them as still being very young, not, 30 to 40.
We think of them young because of that fact. They are right behind Generation X. And I'm a Generation Xer. So, Generation Xers were like in our early 50s, some of us, or what have you, but they're still like one generation away from us, many of us in some cases. And we tend to, in the terminology that you just utilized, they are young adults versus kids. And I know as parents, like they're forever my child, but these are someone else's children, nieces, nephews, aunts and uncles, and they have growing responsibilities like we do. They're individual contributors to our tax system, while at the same time working to navigate minimizing their student loan debt. They have dreams and goals, and they have an entrepreneurial spirit. So these are adults that can think, can contribute, problem solve, make decisions, and lead companies. These innovative technology companies and startups are being started by millennials.
I hate to put you on the spot on this, but how many boomers are still in the workforce? Do you have any idea? I know how many are going to be leaving the workforce, in the next 10 years. I'm not sure if that's, part of that number, but do you have any ballpark of how many boomers are still working?
Boomers that's in the workforce now are leaving the workforce probably within your next 5 to 10 years. They will be leaving the workforce.
Well, I know that from a business standpoint, that because we work with first to second generation businesses, that 60% of family businesses are going to transition in the next 5 to 10 years. They're calling it, the gray tsunami, right? There's so many people going to be retiring in the next, 5 to 10 years. But not only that, but businesses are going to transition. So, and I know that there's, I think it's something like 600,000 family businesses in Canada. Now it's going to be a lot larger in your neck of the woods, our sisters south of us. But that's a fairly substantial number here in Canada to have, that many businesses going to transition over the next 5 to 10 years. But anyway, I digress a bit. I guess the thing is to understand the millennials or the Gen Z, because the Gen Z is coming up right behind those millennials, right?
Yes, they are.
So what is it costing companies, and how is it costing companies when they fail to sort of address the needs of millennials and Gen X?
A failure to address the needs of our generations, the two generations that are really pivotal to sustainability of organizations, it's going to cost them $30.5 billion for turnover. If we're not revisiting our policies and making the necessary changes in policies and practices and how we work, they want to work differently. Yes. And if we don't change those policies, the retention rate is going to fall for organizations. There's going to be high turnover, and they are already, the average millennial or Generation Z spend less than 5 years with one organization. They're on the lookout for promotion, increase, because they have to cover all their debts, along with, different, because they are venturous and they want to be able to travel. They want to be on vacation and work at the same time. They don't feel like everything has to be at the corporate office, that they can still accomplish what they want to do away from the corporate office. And so without revising policies, and especially the policies that matter to them.
Right. And do you think that COVID had a bearing on that? Because we're 4 years through COVID now. So these millennials are, they were 24 or something, or, around that age, or 26 when this happened. Do you think that COVID had a bearing, or were they always going to be like this?
They are wired in such a way where they see things differently. They have a different worldview is the correct terminology. So the terminology is their perspective of the world from a global perspective is totally different. COVID probably might have been a catalyst to why they see things differently, but they are of the persuasion they can, again, instead of they'll work 10 or 12 hours so that they can have that Friday or that Monday or that flex day to be able to enjoy and do things with their family, their friends, and go hiking, for instance, or rock climbing, for instance. And so they're really change catalysts. Like, why does it have to be done that way? Is this the only way that we should do this? And so they think they're unconventional and they think outside the box.
Now, and I get that. And, I try to be as flexible as I can. And I think we're in a position that we're able to do that because we can work from different locations. But that's very difficult for like retail organizations or construction, like most of the blue collar. You can't work from home. So is that going to have a bearing on where millennials will go or where Gen Zs will go to work? Because, if you are building a house or building a building, you can't work from home that day. You have to actually come in and do the work. Or will they go away from that type of industry, which the industries that we need the most? Will they, shy away from that and go to an industry that they can, have flexibility?
They're looking for flexibility, but they're also looking for that sustainable organization that values climate that wants to work to where there's the lead generation. And it's so for them, if they were working in construction, it would be on a building that has the lead generation certification because they say, okay, so you're using sustainable products, you have sustainable policies and policies and governance.
Right.
Okay, we see that you care about the environment. So they're looking for organizations that are attractive in those ways, that's meaningful, that gives back to the community, that are part of like from a philanthropic standpoint, are you giving? So are you matching and giving to these and sponsoring some of those particular conferences and events that matter to them? So they are inclined to work blue collar, not just white collar. It's just that they want flexibility. They want fairness in the workplace. They want equity. They want inclusion. And they want to know that you care about what they care about and that you're willing to listen, even if you don't agree.
Interesting. So how would, I guess it's, because now you're dealing with your bosses or the owners of these companies are probably boomers, right? Tail end of the boomers. I would think most of them. I mean, yes, there's some underneath, but they also understand that. So the Gen Zs, of course, the older ones would still be sort of the same mindset as the Gen Xs, as the boomers. So how do you get them to think differently? Because they're like, well, I'm not doing that. I've been doing this, for 40 years. Why would I change now? How can companies, and what can they do to sort of make that change to draw these workers in?
They could do several things. And when I was, so in this space, listen to, again, as advisors and consultants, look at different reports concerning what matters to those millennials and Gen Z that are in your company structure, in your organization, looking where to recruit them from. What matters to them? Work-life balance. PTO, paid time off. What is your PTO plan? What is your 401k matching plan? What are the benefits that you offer that are attractive for what matters most to them? What are the top 10? What are the top 15 things that matter to them? Employee engagement, constructive feedback. So that communication loop is that they're looking for your mentorship, they're looking for your feedback because they want to grow and they're inquisitive and they're going to ask those hard, difficult, challenging questions because they want to understand, not just challenging everything that's done, but they want to understand the why behind the policy.
Right. So communication,
regulation. So communication is big for them.
So you mentioned like a more time off in your 401k. In Canada, their pensions are group RSPs, but it basically is the same thing. It's retirement savings. So are those as important? Does retirement, is that as important to millennials and Gen Zs? Like, seems so long, like so far away. I know that I wasn't really interested in that. I mean, I was and I wasn't. I was in the financial services industry, so I did that. I could see the retirement that I need to save for it, but it wasn't a priority, right? And do you think that the priorities will change? So if you're trying to attract, millennials versus Gen Zs, is it because the millennials are a little bit older, maybe, that the health benefits and the savings for retirement are more important as well as the time off?
Health benefits for sure because of maternal leave, we have paternity leave now. Yep. But one of the things that's key is remembering that they understand there are few jobs that offer a pension. So if you're offering that 401k matching to help compensate for them to either continue their education, as far as continuing education, and you support their college as if they want to go back and get another certification, definitely, your benefits package to make it attractive to get them in the door for the interview, because they're interviewing the companies now, is that you want to make sure that you're not putting anything on the table that's a deal breaker for them. And not offering work-life balance is one of their deal breakers. Like, they're not going to do it. They want They want autonomy, but at the same time, they also want that collective responsibility of nurturing their professional growth to the next level. They'll get those 2 years of experience or 2.5 years of experience from one organization, and then they're going to transition and move on to gain other experience at another organization. Meanwhile, still being able to say, okay, will my 401k transfer to this other organization?
And that's very difficult as a business owner. here is that transition, because it's very expensive for us to lose somebody after 2 years, because it really takes about a year to get them up and running and really engaged in the company and understanding the systems. And, as we say, like they've drank the Kool-Aid, they're all in, and then to have them leave. So are you suggesting or saying that with this generation, that we really should be focusing on more than just the benefit plan, but to say, hey, we're environmentally, cognizant. We really want to protect the environment. We're very concerned about renewable resources or whatever it is. Is that something that is as important that we should be putting on our websites, or when we're interviewing or saying, here's who we are? We're not just home builders. We build homes with green products, or, whatever it is that we should do. So I guess what I'm saying is, should the companies research a little bit what the generation that they're trying to attract, so if it's millennials, what they want, and sort of change a little bit of the company to be able to attract? And if they attract them, will that retain them?
So great segue into the fact that, yes, absolutely have it on your website. Take it a step further. Website, policies, when they're doing that initial interview and then the follow-on second interview, once they are hired, they want to see that your policies, what's on the website, matches what you do. And then what partnerships...
So put your money where your mouth is?
Put your money where your mouth is. What partnerships have you established with affiliates and partners that actually complement what you have on your website? When they see that synergy, that match up, that link up, that is not just lip service, they're going to stay with you. And if they can see themselves moving from entry level into management level, and you have that career plan mapped out for them with leader development and training and coaching and mentorship, and, someone sponsoring them, they're going to be more inclined to want to stay, because now you are speaking their language while not divorcing or forgetting the baby boomers, the millennials. So you're really making policies and practices and governance and everything that we do as organizations, from the vision, the mission, and the values of an organization, those core pillars of why you are in business. Now you're really making it attractive for all generations to want to work in your organization, across ethnic backgrounds, across national backgrounds, because even on the blue collar level, we have to begin to think global and not just regional.
Right. Well, it's very interesting because, if you look at the millennials being the largest workforce out there, and also they're the ones who can stay with you the longest, other than the Gen Zs. But I mean, these are ones who said, okay, I'm done school. I played around a little bit. Now I want to settle into a lifestyle that I can support my family and, move through life, put my kids through school, all that kind of thing. But speaking of that, when we talked about housing, so if you, for example, are a builder, as we talked about, and yes, you are a green builder or you're not a green builder. So A1, you're attracting people to your workforce. Like, come on in, I want to recruit you, I want you to stay and grow. But then there's also the flip side of the people who buy your product. So is it the same thing with millennials, that you have to or should talk about how your product was made or where it came from, or, the environment or the people that you purchased it from? Because of course there's that cost benefit, right? The people who want the cheapest cost, which is not necessarily the best in terms of labor and where it came from. But can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, they're definitely going to research that. And they look up stuff on Google. They're going to find out, and you don't want to be a company that lacks integrity, where your workforce is producing products and goods, and then therefore, so where was it made at? How is the labor force being treated? What is the pay that labor force is receiving? Are the materials safe, clean? So they're going to research it. They're going to look it up, and if I am a producer, not just a consumer, so leaders have to think with both lenses.
Right.
You have to have the consumer, the user experience, as well as, yes, you're producing these products and you're generating them in volume. But while you're generating them in volume, how is that? Are they affiliated with any human trafficking organizations? Are they child labor issues? So look at, from a legal standpoint, look at some cases of where this did not go well for organizations and why it didn't go well for organizations. And you don't necessarily have to go through a lawsuit to figure those things out. You could be on the preventative side of things,
play defensive.
Risk management standpoint, and put those things in place before a lawsuit is, landed against an organization.
Right. Now, so if you've got a small company and of course they, we'll go back to a builder again, because that's kind of a small, again, a family-run small business, not a global building company. And there's lots of family-owned companies that are very, very large. But if we have a small company that's got 60, 70 employees, and they're looking to attract, would they use their website as a way to both attract as employees or, to get consumers? Like, where should they, or what should they be doing to attract and to get people, other than, we talked about the flashing 12 and, YouTube and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. And I think again, how do you hit the right people? Because for me, I'm not a YouTuber, but I understand that's like the place to be now. But that's not where I'm going to, as an owner of the company, for example, I wouldn't think about that, to do something on YouTube. Like, where do millennials go to get their information?
So several sources. And what I want to back up to is, if you're you're that family-owned business in a regional area, or your local community college or university, for instance, could be a pipeline of talent right there for you. If there's a pathway program, an apprenticeship program, an internship program, similar to, Canada's right above us, you're our sister country. And so here, it's pathways, it's apprenticeships, it's internships. Being at those college fairs, when they're having those college fairs, that you have a booth set up. Is there a big event taking place in it from a cultural, and I say cultural immersion perspective? Where are the millennials hanging out? Do you have flyers up there? Do you send representatives from the company, like scouts, to go where they are? Is it a concert? Is it a big expo or a hall where they're sponsoring something for millennials in tech and millennials that are interested in again, as far as you said, with construction? Is there a construction fair being sponsored? Are you a sponsor? Do you have a table and a booth with all your promotional materials and items out on it? So being in the community and being involved and plugged in and having that partnership with the local higher academic institution. You have flyers in places where they frequent, which is in our country is coffee shops and places where they like to go to.
I think it's the same here.
Yeah. So
are they readers? Are they big readers? I mean, I know you say they go to Google, but are they big readers, or do they like Instagram where it's, more pictures rather than stories? Like, where would they hang out other than coffee shops, or where do they, what other place would they go to?
Social media, Instagram, TikTok, X, formerly known as Twitter, your YouTube, of course, internet. They're in, these different collaborative channels, as far as like some people have WhatsApp. They're communicating. Facebook Messenger, they're communicating. They're sharing, whether it be texting. Some do phone calls, some do text, some do video calls. There are group sessions that they have. Finding out. And that's why it's so great to have them in relationship with them, because you can, through that new employee, which I was listening to a webinar last week about, which was interesting, was, artificial intelligence is on the street. Everybody's becoming familiar with the advantages to using AI and robotics and machine learning, but we'll stick with AI. Well, if someone that's younger in the organization understands artificial intelligence and how to use it to make a chat box and really refine and rewrite some of the things that we write, whether it be a proposal, a paper, spreadsheet. We don't even have to have a coding degree now because AI is doing it for us.
Yeah.
Partner with that millennial, partner with that Gen Z person to understand how to bridge this into integrate this into your practices that you do from day to day at work to
Think
really
of the flashing 12. How do I get rid of the flashing 12?
You cannot. To streamline your processes, they save you time, they save you resources, and you get that time to reallocate towards another problem solving area within the business. Even in construction, how they're doing the 3D models and everything all online before they ever go out on site and start working and breaking ground to erect a building or a house.
Right. Amazing. Well, anyway, I think we're out of time. Melody, thank you so much for joining us. And as usual, I'm going to ask you a question. What's your takeaway? What's your big piece of advice to give to our listeners?
Instead of having a deal breaker with the millennials and Generation Z, ensure that you have policies and that you're actually standing behind those policies with, again, walking the talk and making your company equitable, inclusive, attractive, and then also environmental, sustainable governance is all packaged into what you do to attract and retain the millennials and Gen Z in the workforce.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. I'm so glad you could join us today.
I am so glad to be here. Thank you so much for this second opportunity to have a conversation with you and your audience.
And again, where can they reach you?
www.xcelmil.com. We empower teams to excel. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoy this episode. I'm Barbara Kephart from Projects Pivot. Until next time, keep it in the family.
If you like this episode, subscribe to the Business of Family podcast on your favorite listening platform. You can also find BlueRoots on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. On the next show, I'll be back with another amazing guest who will inspire you with their family business insights. Until then, take care and keep it in the family. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, tax, investment, or insurance advice. Before acting on any advice, please contact your personal or company advisors.